Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to yet another series of webinars in post-COVID recovery for Kenya's tourism. And this afternoon, we are focused on how do we restart business travel, business tourism akamais. My name is Tasneema Damji, along with my colleague Zuhura Ogada. We will be moderating this afternoon's webinar. I would like to say karibuni wote, and also recognize that we have more than 600 participants this afternoon, coming from 28 different countries. So Jambo, Karibu, and it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our very own dynamic, visionary Cabinet Secretary, who's the host of this meeting, CS Honorable Najib Balala. May I ask you to say a few words?
Thank you very much, Tasneem, and all the panelists who are on board today. I want to say this is historic. It's our first time to host such a webinar. Thank you to Jacinta and the technical team behind the scenes. But I want just to say a few words because this time is unprecedented time, and the whole world has been affected. We all get nervous. We don't know what the future is coming because it's still evolving. Every day until the curve is flattened, and then you have to know what's the future. So there will be a new world order, definitely, the new norm. And the worst sectors that have been affected is the hospitality industry, the aviation industry, and also the tourism industry. Remember, the tourism industry globally was 10% of the GDP. Every 10 tourists, 1 person got employed. Yeah, in Kenya is the same. Yeah, and most of the countries is 10% of the GDP. Unfortunately, this industry is as good as shut, but it's only temporary. Then when do we start? When would the normal come back to the 10%? Well, first of all, let's not even talk about going back to the 10% or rebounding back to the 10%. It's about when can we start? The real start. Yeah, the real start will only come when the vaccine is ready. And the vaccine so far is in 18 months. So vaccine equals to freedom plus normalcy. So that is the equation, I got it. So it's one thing to say that our airspace is open, is one thing that we say we welcome tourism, is another thing to get the wheels rolling. That is the biggest problem. And the first thing that we need the wheels to roll is the aviation sector. Without aviation, we can't get people delivered into Kenya or in Africa or anywhere. So that transportation, and I'm so glad the collaboration between IATA, ICAO, and ACI, this collaboration is wonderful because they are the ones going to get all of us working. So this for me is very important. But there are two things that are very critical, and let's face it. It is fear and it is finance. People will come out from this, but they have fear. They don't know, should I travel to Kenya? Is Kenya safe? Even if the situation is good, people in their country will say, I don't want you to bring back the virus into the country. So people are going to get all these measures, and this fear is going to happen. Then, can I afford it? Would I use the money to go on vacation now? Or can I save? I don't know if I'll have a job tomorrow. These are realities of the people. Yeah, and people will say, I rather travel to my neighbor by car rather of taking a flight because I'm worried about the quarantine of 14 days. I'm worried about the social distancing. I'm worried about spending 4 hours just at the airport before I board a plane. Those are realities. But there will be a new normal, I can tell you that. All of us, let's face it. So what is a new normal? We need to contain the virus. We need to follow the MOH, Ministry of Health measures. We need to develop new protocols. We need to actually look internal market at the moment to safeguard till 18 months. Imagine here in Kenya, and this Rick informed me, we have over 200 associations, big associations. If only we get 30% of those associations, I can tell you we will have business in mice throughout the year. And if we can manage it well and create our new opportunity of businesses as well. But yes, Tourism is not dead, I can assure you. Tourism is not dead, is under halftime in football. Yeah, so we have taken halftime, but we actually need to rethink. Unfortunately, the sector has been hit with too many shocks in Kenya. Al-Shabaab, travel advisory, name them. Yeah, but this one is just, it's been too catastrophic. So we are literally worn out in Kenya because of the challenges we have. So we need to actually think afresh. We need to think differently. And for me, it's an opportunity. This is an opportunity. And 5 things I want to advise. It is an opportunity. Let's look at the customer and make sure the experience is worth it. Let's make sure that we respect the environment. Let's make sure that we are innovative and we are technological savvy. Let's bring the people, the community around us to be the focal point. It's not just about animals. It's not just about the beach. It's about people around those areas. And those are the custodians of those assets. And finally, how do we have connectivity that is efficient, safe, and affordable? Thank you very much, Tasneem, for giving me the opportunity, but I'm glad. I want to welcome everybody, the panelists and the audience and the participants and all Kenyans listening to this webinar. I believe it's going to be a very dynamic, and we are starting now. The Kenya National Convention Bureau is just a new baby in government and in the sector. We want to support it to grow. Thank you very much, Tasneem.
Thank you, Waziri. That was a fantastic opening. Ladies and gentlemen, all my colleagues from all over the world joining in. This is a MICE event. And so there is no MICE event without an icebreaker. And coming right up, I would like you to, wherever you are, tap your fingers, let those toes start playing some whatever music you want. But here we are, launching away. Take us in, Harry.
Kwa uchungu na mateso, kwa vilio na huzuni, tulinyakuliwa uhuru na mashujaa wa zamani. Hawakushtushwa na risasi au kufungwa gerezani. Nia yao ukombozi, kuvunja pingu za ukoloni. Naishi na tumaini, najitolea daima Kenya. Hakika ya bendera ni uthabiti wangu. Nyeusi ya wananchi na nyekundu ni ya damu. Kijani ni ya ardhi, nyeupe ya amani. Daima mimi Mkenya, mwananchi mzalendo.
Ladies and gentlemen, daima mimi Mkenya, mwananchi mzalendo. Kenya is here to stay. Zuhura, please take us through.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you, Kenyans who tuned in, and also a lot of us across the world that are here. You can see we're excited. This is the MICE industry. We bring action into MICE. We bring power into MICE, excitement. It's all about meeting, being able to develop and create spaces that are imaginary. And we're very excited to have all of you. And yes, you can be able to tweet, be on Facebook, and also on the IG with the hashtag Meet in Africa. We want that trending, and of course, having so much excitement. So as you can see, we're just seated next to you and happy to ensure that we are looking at growing this industry and also focusing, even with the challenges that we have, how can we be able to leap forward in reference to that. So excited, get onto your social media aspects and be able to get in touch. Allow me to introduce, that is Asmarie Steinoff. Asmarie from ICA, of course, would like to let Asmarie to be able to share with us some statistics on the 2019 ICA City and Country Ranking Report. It would be good to see how are we ranking? Yes, what is the globe looking like? How are we, where are we placed for us to even be able to leap forward ahead? Welcome, Ms. Marie.
I'm just going to share my screen because I always think with statistics, it's always better to just see some of the information as well. Just before I start, ICA is the International Congress and Convention Association. As an association, we are over 50 years old, and we bring out city and country rankings, a report annually. It's a global report on how many association conferences are hosted globally and then also per city and country. Very important to just mention, because often companies or people quote the ICA criteria, and then it doesn't always make sense if you hear the numbers, because the numbers for ICA might sound a lot less, and you know in your city or in your destination you host a lot more. So the first criteria is that it must be a minimum of 50 participants, which generally is an easy one for most conferences. The main criteria is that it must be an association that rotates between 3 countries. So in the case of African associations, and we're going to hear from Jeffers a bit later on, the Agricultural Economist Association, their event rotate within Africa. If it's an international association, of course, it will rotate globally. Also important to note when we look at the numbers just now, it's only association conferences. So we do not include corporate conferences or government conferences. Then I often get asked, but how is it possible for ICA to rank and to do all this work? We've got a team of 15 research staff at our head office, which is based in Amsterdam, that basically do verify all these events on an annual basis before we release the statistics. So just to start with a bit of a bird's eye view, we released the stats literally about a week ago for 2019. If we look globally, there were over 13,000 international and regional associations that took place. If we look at Africa, Africa only got 415, or just over 3% of the global market share. One of the reasons, and there are a few, is that we don't have that many convention bureaus on the continent. So I think we really want to also look post-COVID-19. Amazing that Kenya has now got the Kenya National Convention Bureau, because this will definitely ensure that more association conferences as well as incentives or corporate or government events will come to the destination. If we look at the top 5 countries in Africa, of the 415, South Africa #1, and I'm not going to go through all of them in detail. That's also why I have it on the slide. Kenya for 2019 ranked #5 on the continent. If we then look at the cities, I mentioned South Africa was #1. In South Africa, Cape Town is the main city that attracts association conferences. And then if we look at Kenya, 19 took place in Nairobi. So Nairobi is #5 in Africa. You might think, well, where did the rest of the events take place? For 2019, the remainder took place in Mombasa. So again, an opportunity for other cities in the country to also start to focus and going forward host the association events. Now, specifically for Kenya, if we look at the number of participants, and again, economic impact is directly linked to the number of delegates that come for any type of business events. So just over the last 5 years, just over 45,000 attendees that came to the country for association events. Size of meetings. The reason why I put this slide in is there's often a misperception that association conferences are only the large events, 2,000 people, 1,500 people, 5,000 delegates. Again, if we look at the picture for Kenya over the last 5 years, the bulk of meetings were up to 1,000. The highest number were between 50 and 149. So a great opportunity, not just for your convention centers going forward to benefit from hosting association events, but also your hotels and your smaller conference. I can also make this available afterwards. Then if we look at the type of venues, and I know there's lots of new hotels in the destination as well, and I've been lucky to stay at a few. The largest will go to your hotel meeting venues. Then your exhibition centers and also universities are popular venues. So again, just showing that association conferences can benefit a spread and across the board. So not just, again, your convention centers, although they do play an important role for the larger capacity events. And then my last slide is just looking at the various subjects. And again, I know there's lots of universities, and we always say when we look at association conferences, and also important to note, and a positive again post-COVID-19, because there will be a day when it is all back to normal, and also linked to the Kenya National Convention Bureau that's been established, is looking at the sectors that already played a role in events that has been hosted in the destination. So these are the top 5 sectors or subjects of association conferences that took place over the last 5 years: medical sciences, sciences, management, economics, and industry. So I think just as a last word with the statistics, association conferences already took place in the destination. And again, with the establishment of the Kenya National Convention Bureau, and with a lead time for associations being 3 to 5 years, this is the ideal time to actually now start bidding for these events, and to make sure that Kenya's ranking for the ICA city and country rankings report will also increase. But again, to keep in mind, we've got a specific criteria. You also get your corporate government conferences, you get your exhibitions, either trade exhibitions or consumer exhibitions, and then of course the incentive market. Thank you. I really hope this gave a bit of an insight pre-COVID-19. And again, yeah, I can share the information afterwards as well to the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Esmare. And participants, we wanted Ika to come in with these slides because there's always a dark cloud hanging over our heads as to why Kenya is not on the top 3, or for that matter, at the top of the ICA rankings. Now, the ICA rankings mean a lot, but they don't mean everything. And therefore, we must not trash ourselves that we are not on that list of the top 5 or the top 10 for that matter, but because we have our own internal, domestic and regional business that's not necessarily captured by ICA. So I think more than trashing ourselves, we must always look as to what we are doing and what we are doing well. And at this note, I'd like to, this webinar also is one of the formal introductions of the new baby of the Ministry of Tourism, which is the Kenya National Convention Bureau. This is the body that will take us forward in MICE. And may I please request our Honorable CS Najib Balala to make the formal introduction of the KENSEP. Unmute. Was it unmute?
Yes. Thank you very much, Tasneem. What a coincidence. Today you're moderating our first MICE webinar. And you are the one who chaired the task force on do we need MICE? Do we need a convention bureau? What is happening? And you gave us a wonderful report in January 2017. So thank you very much. You are the one who is behind the formation of the Kenya National Convention Bureau. And then recently I met Zuhura Emak. That is wonderful because this is the time where we could get the providers of services, the facilities, and the government to come together and say, this is our baby, we want to move together. Yes, so we gazetted in October, the Kenya National Convention Bureau. We have a whole team of the board, the advisory board, which is chaired by my PS, Safina Kwekwe, who is also in the audience. She's the chairperson of the board. And then we have 4 ministries, which are crucial to be on the board. One is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because of the international cooperation and events that take place. You can see what Ika has just said. The association she has tabulated is not government. So these are governmental. Second is Ministry of Trade, which is crucial. It has many meetings globally for multilateral and bilateral. So those are the things that we have put them on board. Then sports, Ministry of Sports, because sports is mega events. The Sapphire Rally that was planned in July this year, the Diamond meetings all over the world. So sports is crucial. And then we have the Ministry of National Treasury and Planning. So those are the key ministries in the board. And then we brought also 4 key partners in the private, in this MICE board. We brought the Kenya Tourism Board, being the marketing body for the country in terms of leisure tourism. We brought KEPSA. KEPSA is a private sector association, the umbrella private sector association of all businesses in the country. And then we brought the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And finally, we brought the Kenya Tourism Federation, the umbrella body in the tourism sector. So we brought everybody in the private sector to be members of this board. And then definitely we have to identify who is the chief coordinator of this convention bureau. And we identify our able lady, Jacinta Nzioka. So mine is to introduce Jacinta Nzioka. Thank you very much for organizing a wonderful webinar today. And I can tell you, after this is just the beginning of the conversation of how do we move forward. I know this sector has been badly hit, but it doesn't mean we go back to sleep or we fold up. No, we actually build the lessons and make sure when the world is open, and even before it opens, because we need to learn how to live with COVID-19 for the next 2 years. How do we take opportunities? And I know Rick will be able to give us the opportunities available here in Kenya, not even outside the country yet. Thank you very much, Tasneem and Zuhura. So I welcome Jacinta.
Thank you very much, CS, and panelists, moderators, ladies and gentlemen from around the world. It's exciting to be speaking about Kenya this afternoon. And we are upbeat. I'm excited to be hosting the first MICE webinar. And thanks for the support from the Ministry of Tourism. I was appointed late last year with no staff, but now we have a good secretariat, thanks to the board that has supported in establishment. So currently we are focusing on 3 things. Number 1 is just to lay the foundation of the Bureau and be able to come up with the relevant frameworks and be able now to move to the next phase of development where we are delivering value for the destination. Come up with relevant content, position the destination for MICE, create a MICE brand which is aligned with the tourism brand, and then we'll be able now to optimize all these opportunities and potential that the destination has. When the committee that is led by Tasneem was recommending establishment of a bureau, one of the key gaps was coordination of the MICE activities within the destination. That is our role now. We are going to be coordinating not only in tourism, but all the other sectors, because meetings, events, conventions happen beyond tourism. So we are liaising and partnering with all the sectors within the destination and ensuring that we enlist support and demand, both locally, regionally, and internationally. So with my team, we have the pleasure to take on this responsibility. When we were just about to get out and speak to stakeholders, our first stakeholders forum was in March, and it was just canceled before all the meetings were banned. So we have an opportunity to continue with our programs, whether we are going to be doing it virtual, but establishment and foundation is very key. So I'm Jacinta Nzioka, leading the team at the Kenya National Convention Bureau. I have over 20 years experience in travel industry, internationally, locally, regionally, and it's an exciting opportunity and challenge for us to be able to establish this organization that will see Kenya move to the next level. Look at those rankings. We have targets already that we are looking at hitting and being able to come out as a winner. So thank you very much, Waziri, and the rest of the panelists, and thank you, participants, for attending.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jacinta. So ladies and gentlemen who have been wondering where is the Convention Bureau, so now you know. And we have the most able Jacinta Nzioka and her team. Slowly, it's nascent stages, but with our support, it has to be a proper public-private partnership, I think, in this one, where there has to be input from everyone. And I think we can only see good things coming forward. So now let's just dive straight into conversations. This is what this afternoon is all about. Everyone has, and my God, have we received questions? Oh, wow. Thank you very much. I mean, we've had so many questions. So there is a limited to what we will be able to answer this afternoon, but you will get your answers in writing. However, I'd like to do this in a very thematic way. And so we'll take the government questions first, and they will be directed to our CS. Let me also recognize, I believe our Madam PS is also with us this afternoon, Madam Safina Karibu Sana. And perhaps if she would like to have a word at some time, maybe we can just organize that. So Waziri, I have, the first question is that question everyone has, and I'm sure you've heard it before, but I really have to put this one to you. When will the sector be reopened? Now, in this case, it's mice. You earlier mentioned 18 months till the vaccine is found, but our sector still needs to reopen. So maybe you have some thoughts about that?
Yes. Yes, Tasneem, thank you very much. When is the sector going to be opened? I mean, the mice sector. I'm not too sure when, but it doesn't mean that we are going to sleep. And that's why we have the Convention Bureau and this discussion today. Yeah, the minute life comes to normal, there's no curfew, there's no lockdown, yeah, and we are allowed to now interact as a country, and we observe the social distances measures by government. I think then we can be able to start saying we are now opening slowly. And the minute we open slowly, we can start developing those strategies that Jacinta is going to roll them out. Those are the strategies. And then identify who are these associations. How can we create opportunities for event organizers like Zuhura and her team? How can they come and use our facilities? And let me tell you, our major facility as government is KICC. It's old, probably it's worn out a bit because it's too old, but it doesn't mean it's not serving the purpose. We need to invest into it. That is the truth. But so far it has done a good job. But I can tell you probably this is the time that we need to think in government. How do we invest back to KICC and do a refurbishment? This is the time to think about it. How do we make sure that some of these facilities, we can work with the stakeholders like Zuhura and her team and the artists as well? How do you come to KICC and we facilitate for you? Just not because we want to make money or pay our costs, just to allow life to come back and support the SMEs in this sector. So we will be open. Today's webinar will also be a learning session for us as government. And I know Nana is there listening. I know Peter Guitar there at Bomas is listening. So from the government perspective, but yes, we have facilities in the private sector. I have instructed Jacinta to make sure that they're involved and everybody can now give in their ideas. What can they do in the meantime? Overall, until the vaccine is found, then life will come to normal. But it doesn't mean that we are going to die till the vaccine is found. No, we must be proactive in one way or another. And that is why we create this webinar, to get the ideas of how to be proactive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable C.S. Balala, indeed, for your sharing. You're recognized for steering Kenya's tourism sector to recovery following periods of crisis. You've also strategized in having some countries lift travel advisories in the first, which helped to boost investor confidence and created a positive environment for the mines to thrive. You steered the refurbishment and the regeneration of the Mama Ngina waterfront, an iconic international visitor, and MICE attraction for the coast. You're currently in the process of expanding the capacity of KICC, as you've shared, and also other plans followed up by your ministry, including the expansion in other cities like Mombasa and Kisumu. If I could ask, what plans does the ministry have to maximize MICE business in Kenya?
First of all, I believe two things needs to be done in the next 3 years for us to be competitive. And okay, congratulations to Rwanda and Kigali, but actually it should be Kenya first. And yes, we are lacking a state-of-the-art convention center. That is the truth. Yeah, we don't have a state-of-the-art international airport that will be seamless. This is the truth. We need to invest into proper railways that can be able to connect people faster. I mean, the SGR that has been built Mombasa, Nairobi, business survives in Mombasa because of SGR. Why don't we have SGR all over the country? Yeah, but we can do it. And that's why I said a lot of things of reflections and planning and implementation is now during this crisis. So I believe we must do something on KICC and refurbish it. We must have a PPP in terms of state-of-the-art convention centers, and we must have a brand new airport in the next 3 years. Why I use the word must is very, very, very strong words. It's because if we want to be competitive, if we want to be the hub, if we want to be the leader in tourism, these are 3 fundamentals we must put in place. Thank you very much, Zuhura.
The short, the 12 to 18 months, what can we do, etc. But do you already as a ministry, or perhaps the National Convention Bureau may already be, sort of doodling away with something like this, is that do we have a short-term plan on how we can just sort of push so that we can create some business? We all know that a lot of business, especially for MICE, comes from government. So do you think there is any room or scope for that?
Well, you're right. We have already lifted the circular that says that government cannot hold meetings in private facilities. That has already been lifted. So government can hold meetings in private facilities and in hotels. So that is already one aspect of doing business with the private sector. The second one is how do we support the SMEs in this sector? And I know you have huge number of SMEs in the MICE sector. Yeah, we are working on possibility of creating an SME fund. So it will not be just purely tourism or MICE, it will be a national government SME fund that people who will need 500,000 shillings to do their business and to make sure they survive. Those are the funds that will be available. And it's not going to be a free fund. It will be like a normal loan with security, with everything at an affordable interest rate. But that is the plan we have. You have heard what CS Yatani has just mentioned yesterday. 5.9 billion shillings for the Ministry of Tourism. That is both wildlife and tourism. So we are going to get details about that and share it with the stakeholders of this sector. But yes, I can tell you, government is going to consider an SME fund where we can be able to give support to your members as well.
Thank you so much, Honorable Balala. Again, I'm excited to hear about the SME fund, more because in market, and especially representing the EMAC, our members really felt it when COVID hit, because there are a lot of cancellations and a lot of jobs have actually been lost. And we again, deal so much with the informal sector again, that all rely on contractual jobs. So of course, with that, we are really excited to be able to see what can we use to steer the industry and also be able to use the SME platform. But again, thank you so much for responding very fast about the pandemic, for pushing the VAT reduction, for constantly engaging the sector to look for solutions together, for being available for consultations, and also for introducing the stimulus package. What protocols have you set by the MICE industry to curb health and safety?
Well, first of all, I want to say that we tried to do some protocols for the restaurants. We engage with the Ministry of Health and with the stakeholders. You have seen yesterday, there was a statement from the Ministry of Health appreciating the stakeholders in the hospitality sector, that they are adhering with the requirements. But the most important thing is that we need protocols that are actually talking to each other. I have just signed the task force gazette notice to appoint a team to formulate the protocols, because we will have life with the COVID-19 in the next 2 years and beyond. How do we create protocols that are going to be evolving, yeah, but they are going to be also used when curfew is out, when there is no lockdown? So I have just signed a Kenya Gazette notice to appoint all the CEOs of the associations, and including Jacinta in this subject, because she will represent the MICE sector, so that we can be able to agree what will be the protocol. And I want the industry to be proactive. I don't want the protocols to be imposed by government. I want it to come from the stakeholders so that we can appreciate it and align it to the health protocols. Those are the things we are doing now. Thank you very much, Zora.
Thank you, Waziri, once again, for especially the task force for the protocols, because that is the most important thing. I think if we are having to plan ahead and strategize for the way forward for this industry, not only just for the MICE sector, but for our leisure sector as well, because if we do not have those standards set in place, we will be probably the last on the bandwagon again. So can I ask Jacinta now, taking the conversation a little bit to a different sector in terms of the National Convention Bureau. Jacinta, have you already thought in KNCB how you would like to build the client confidence in our MICE market?
Thank you, Tasneem, for that question. And I want to start by just identifying really the most important factors right now for the client, wherever they are, locally in Kenya, regionally, and internationally. It's really to build confidence that the destination will be able to give value and is safe. Health and safety now become really top on in terms of the factors for consideration, besides others like competitiveness, infrastructure, tourism services, ICT, and of course the corporate image. We want to be able to project this confidence as a destination. Number one, by building a very caring brand as a destination. So as Kenya, tying our positioning around the SDGs is going to be critical, because COVID has shown us the importance and the care that the world has to make around each other and around the world. So that is going to be key for us. The other important thing is to continually project this positive and reassuring messaging. The clients are at home, people are working from their houses, they have the time to read, to view us. So we have a series of webinars, virtual meetings. We are coming up with the training manuals, even for our private sector to be able to fill the gap of capacity building. So we'll conduct all this during this period, so that in readiness for travel, when restrictions are lifted, we should be able to be ready. Protocols are key for the destination. So we are involved in that. And as the CS mentioned, we are starting already, and we have brainstormed what sort of protocols do we need to come up with. They must give us a competitive edge, and they must be benchmarked globally, so that we are a leader. We are taking a position of leadership within the region. The other thing, of course, is there's going to be interest in discussing hot topics. Many things will come up. Health is going to be one of the hottest topics. We also want to take that position as the CDC Africa Center here in Kenya, to be able to host and share some of these experiences. with destinations, with other countries. How was your experience during COVID? What are the innovations? There's a lot of innovations that have come out within this period, and COVID has shown us that we come up with homegrown solutions. So these discussions definitely, Tasneem, are going to be forming a very critical role in restarting. We don't have to wait until a vaccine is there. We are working on this, and the protocols will guide us as soon as restrictions to move around our country first and also across the borders is done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jacinta. A quick question has come up. You know, MICE is meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. And somehow maybe our focus is a little bit on the MC and the E, and the I is sort of sitting on the side like that poor cousin. You know, the poor cousin needs to come into the picture, because that's our leisure side of MICE. We're talking about incentive groups, and you know, Kenya has been, and Annabella Francescon has raised this question and saying that, yeah, what do we do with our large groups? I mean, we've been known to host 200, 300, 500, 1,000 persons leisure groups, taking them to see the best of our nature. So I believe that Waziri, maybe in terms of protocol, whatever is coming up for leisure as well, will help us in how to cope with the eye of the MICE. Yeah. Because incentives also need to come back. They are high revenue groups, usually. They consume a lot. They consume also our creative and arts side, you know. There's barely an incentive group that will not have a dance troupe or a live band or something playing for them. So I think we must not ignore that. And Jacinta, maybe throw that into your little basket as well, along with whatever protocols that will be set for the ministry, yeah? Thank you. Thank you very much, Zuhura.
Yes, Jacinta, very excited, and just seeing the oomph you have for the industry. Amazing enough. And it takes us to be able to turn around this industry. A thought that came out was more of, we are allowing people are going to the malls, we are having people walk all over. Yet the opportunity we have with the MICE industry, we have actually the track and trace. So we can be able to have people attend a convention, but with a lot of order and being able to give them directives in what they need to follow and how many people can actually be taken up in each particular area. So those are some of the things that we're excited to actually see how to work on the protocol that would actually be able to help and advise this industry and the international focus. Other than that, I just need to find out what plans has KNCB put in place to open domestic and regional MICE markets in Kenya, and what measures are you putting down to build the client confidence in our MICE market?
Thanks, Zuhura, for that. I'll focus on domestic and Africa. I think we touched on the client confidence. And of course, domestic and Africa, the regional, is going to be the first to come back. And that has been spoken a lot of times, both in MICE and leisure. And so that is where we need to start from, being able to make it possible to have even corporate events, corporate meetings, using the protocols that are going to be laid down to ensure safety and security, and also enhance the experience of the client. One of the key things is going to be to work directly with the corporates and associations that are based in this country. We have over 200 associations headquartered here in Kenya, NGOs, you know, there's a lot of people that can have meetings. Face-to-face meetings will never be replaced by virtual meetings. The virtual element actually will add value to face-to-face meetings moving forward. So these are things that we are looking at. And for instance, when I refer to what Tasneem talked about in terms of incentives, I'm looking at the corporate Kenya. There's need to re-strategize. Every organization right now, even, you know, as individuals, you're reviewing your plans, you're reviewing your strategy. People are reallocating budgets and action plans. So corporates will have to find a way of doing this. Those are events, whether hybrid or smaller site events within the destination, those are going to be enabled by the protocols, because that is where we need to go. So reassurance, we are talking, and also through the ministry, to look at the incentive scheme. How can we incentivize corporates to ensure that there's travel within the country and also regionally? And then, of course, last but not least, we have the frontline staff that are taking care of the world, that are keeping things flowing as people are working from home. Corporates and institutions and agencies where these people are working, the security, the medical, people in logistics, people, they're not sleeping, communication. It is time to say thank you. You know, it's a compassionate way of a reward trip within the destination or within the region, to be able to say thank you, we did it, we made through the crisis together, just so that again people can rejuvenate and can come back to normalcy, because a lot has been happening. So those are some of the things that we are looking at. And as soon as we come back to the stakeholders with how we are going to involve them in these projects, then you will see for all your members, PCOs, meeting planners, venues, corporate organizations and government agencies, you'll be able to see how you come in and we come up with a proper offer as a destination.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. Amazing, very excited. Just when I looked down on the charts, one of the charts that I saw somebody say, Rick is the man behind the success of Rwanda. So definitely we are happy that we've got the right, the right recipe for the success of this. So if I could just ask Rick and of course even Marie as well, who will also share, and after seeing the statistics that are actually prepping us to be able to leap forward. Rick, when do you forecast the return of the large international conventions? And with the ease of Zoom meetings, will we be able to return to the traditional meeting? We can't hear you. Sorry, Rick. Unmute, please.
Harry, please unmute him.
Harry, can you help?
Hi.
For some reason, I can't unmute him. I don't know what.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're on now.
I'm back.
Okay.
No, I'm just sharing that this is such an exciting watershed moment to have Kenya coming into the MICE arena or the business events arena. And I know right now in this crisis, picking up what CS was saying in his opening comments, there's been a lot of fear, and we can all fully appreciate that. But I think part and parcel of the way forward is a 5, a 10-year horizon, and working closely with Jacinta on the vision, the dynamism of the industry per se. Honestly, there is enormous hope in the marketplace. And I'm sure, and I'm positive, that Kenya certainly does not belong at number 5 in the ICA rankings. We've got professionals, we've got PCOs, we have iconography in the country. And I think everything begins with the meeting. And this is perhaps one of those very first meetings that the KNCB can look back in 100 years' time, in the year, at least 100 years' time, and remember where the people in this room planted these seeds. I mean, any sector that can attract up to 1,000, up to 2,000, 3,000 people, delegates, who weren't coming to the destination in the first place, has got to be meritorious. It deserves focus, it deserves priority. So there's no doubt, I know right now, as I've just referenced, that things are tough. I know hotels are struggling. They're down into single-digit occupancy numbers. I think we know the backstory, but we need to look forward and make a plan, and that's the exciting part. If you look at across the world, for example, what is happening. There certainly are various levels, various speeds of acceleration as countries come back. Yeah, can we still use the word normal or back to abnormal? We've been talking internally that abnormal might become normal again in 5 years' time. But we will certainly measure and monitor that. But as we go forward, associations are going to be a great caveat. They're going to be a great leveler. Again, I think CS and Jacinta have aptly put on the back of what Esmery has shared. ICA, there are 400 meetings happened in Africa last year. There's a database there of, I think, 775 meetings that have met in Africa over the last 10 years. We've also spoken about UIA, which is another channel we want to start to explore from a sales perspective. And that coming back, I think it's the 287 associations in Kenya that fall out and cascade out of that particular sales funnel. So the last comment around incentives, absolutely. That is a product. There is this is site I've spoken about on more than one occasion, which is a great society for the DMCs in Kenya to join for the Bureau. I know they're already looking at a membership once we go into the new financial year. So that is going to help deliver, again, that top end, exactly, Tasneem, you were saying, high end. They spend 3 times more on average than the leisure traveler. So it's looking good. It really is. I just want to, one of the things we all, I think, have been going through fear, and I don't know what each of you all has, what has kept you motivated during these unprecedented times. And I wrote down, gosh, it must have been at least a month ago, when the DG of the WHO, Dr. Tedros, he wrote these words, and I've got them on my wall here, and I look at them daily. And he said, this is the time for facts, not fear. This is the time for science, not rumors. This is the time for solidarity, not stigma. We are all in this together. And I refer to that little paragraph, honestly, two times a day. And it's just like a bit of a rudder. It brings us back. Crises come and they go. This too will go. And I guess the sooner, absolutely, the better. And, so again, coming back to what Jacinta was saying, coming back to building the confidence. I mean, trust is the new currency. You need to go back into the marketplace. They are still there. That example, Tasneem, we were talking about earlier, about what the Australians are doing, for example, setting up out of their bureaus or out of some of their offices, reaching out to meeting planners against a given sales strategy. These are the kinds of new arenas we can start to explore to get Kenya, back forefront. If you look at what's happening also, for example, in the UK, they're lifting wheels up. They're starting this air bridge strategy, where from the UK, you can start flying to certain destinations. So there's collaboration. So these are potentially avenues we'd like to explore on the back of the KNCB. What can we start doing regionally? And when can we start it? Where is KQ in terms of its readiness? Those people in Kigali and Kampala and Entebbe and Addis Ababa can't wait, I'm sure, to get on a KQ flight and hit those beaches in Mombasa just to recharge their energy and their vibrancy. So I remain absolutely optimistic. I think we're in a good place. We're at the beginning which is always a good place to be in developing and designing a 21st century future fit MICE strategy.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Esmeralda, would you like to say something about the forecast of the return of the international conferences? And you know, there's a question that's been coming up again and again, because hey, you know, since 23rd of March, we've all been doing Zoom webinars. So people are saying, will we go back to our traditional meetings? Will we go back to face-to-face? Or will be, you know, as meeting attendees or, you know, delegates or participants become so used to these virtual meetings. And, you know, I always say that, hey, we're human, we're animal, we've got that instinct. We need to go out and we need to breathe the air and we need to feel the people and we need to shake that hand. But yeah, Esmeralda, would you be able to say something on the return of international, I mean, perhaps from an ICA perspective?
Thank you, Tasneem. I think before I answer the question, the one thing that I miss most with all of us wearing masks is to see people's smiles. And I think our industry is a people industry. We want to like see each other. We want to sit and chat and not just virtually via a Zoom meeting or a Zoom webinar. Which I think Zoom meetings and Zoom webinars is definitely what we are going to do for the next month or 2 or 3. At ICA, as we've got our International Congress as an association that takes place every year in November. This year it's taking place in Kaohsiung, China. And just to go from virtual meetings, which is the now, at the ICA Congress will actually be a hybrid meeting. And by a hybrid meeting, it will be some delegates will attend face-to-face, those that can fly and from their various countries. And then some of our members will, if they cannot fly and maybe feel they don't want to attend, will attend virtually. So I think definitely towards the end of the year, we're going to see more hybrid meetings, which is a mix of the face-to-face and the virtual. And then in the talk in general, if I listen to a lot of associations, and we've got about 11,500 associations that we deal with at ICA, looking at possibly middle of 2021, the second half, to go to a little bit more back to normal and more face-to-face. So I think it's those 3 stages: virtual for now, then definitely hybrid still this year, and then back to face-to-face eventually, because that our industry is a face-to-face meeting. A difficult thing at the moment, and I think Rick mentioned trust. It is more difficult to build trust via your computer screen. It's a lot easier to build that trust with the new client that maybe hasn't been to your destination or that you don't know that well. So most definitely face-to-face will come back. It is just going to take time.
Tasneem?
Thank you very much. Yes, Rick.
Just to weigh in on what Esmeralda has shared, I think the timeline question, it's really varying from continent to continent and country to country, because again, it depends very much on the decision makers as to when aircraft and what have you can push back and we get that infrastructure back to work. But what is happening, I mean, from a venue point of view, which is really interesting, we're finding that the research is illustrating that a lot of space, you know, with social distancing, there is a lot of dynamics on the space of the venue. And a lot of medical meetings, and I'm thinking of 2 that were happening in Boston, have moved out of the Boston Convention Center, but they are moving into some vineyards, because there, the event organizer, there's space, there's fresh air, the logistics work as well. So there's you know, a lot of innovation coming through, a lot of creativity coming through from an event planner point of view, saying we don't really want to lose the meeting per se. How do we keep it under different circumstances? So that's quite interesting. and that's happening in September this year.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And another meeting in our space, you know, IMEX. It was supposed to happen in Frankfurt literally last week. I checked in with the team there. At this point in time, it's all go as per normal for September in Las Vegas this year. So let's watch this space and see whether that in fact does materialize. And as Esme was saying, is it a combination of, you know, face-to-face or a little bit of hybrid or whatever it is, which is interesting. And
Rick, maybe I can come in here, Tasneem.
Yes.
Rick, also appreciate that in Kenya, we do some of these meetings in our national parks and conservancies.
Beautiful.
Now, most of these beautiful lodges or tented camps have their own small meeting rooms. You go to Lake Nakuru itself, there is a small lodge there, and they have beautiful facilities. It doesn't carry 400 or 500 people, but it can carry 20 people, or it can carry 30 people. And those are the things what we are talking about. Is going to be a convention, and also is going to be meetings that is not about going to big halls and big convention centers. It's going to be, again, thinking out of the box and making sure that it goes to an area which is airy, which is natural, which is nature, and the footprint must be positive as well. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Rick and Esme. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to be the timekeeper as well, because we don't have the whole evening. Unfortunately, we'd love this party to go on. You know, I can bring in Eric Wainana again. But hey, guys, we've got to move. And I'd like to bring in a little bit of a local perspective from the association side. Jeffers Maruka is with us, who is the president of the African Association of African Executives. And what I'd like to ask Jeffers is, Jeffers, in your opinion, can the local conventions and meetings sustain the MICE facilities that we currently hold as a country, whether it is, you know, from government, corporate, or associations? Because we know that there are more than 200 associations in Kenya. But what is your opinion about that?
Thanks, Taz, for the opportunity to speak. And number one, I want to thank Waziri for fulfilling on the promise he made when we presented the report on the task force, and is now established the Convention Bureau. Really, we pushed a lot for that, and that is a great honor. To go to your question, let me say something. We don't have 200 associations in Kenya. I can tell you we have over 40,000 registered associations in Kenya. The question is, what are they doing? The question is, how many are active? In fact, when you talk about 200 are the international associations who are headquartered in Kenya and who undertake their activities continuously. They host events, they train their members, you know, because ideally the whole purpose of an association is to bring people of a similar interest and industry together, to focus on what can help the industry to grow, and also to look at maybe the policies they can propose to governments for them to be improved, and also to actually assist the communities. So in Kenya, we have a lot of facilities, and that is some of the things I've come to realize. I think post the convention, post the task force, we've had an opportunity to look at different and various venues, locally, regionally, and even all throughout Africa. And in Kenya, if our associations were well organized, if our associations were to actually fulfill the core value or the core objective of the establishment, we have enough venues to sustain and to sustain us, and enough people who can have events in those different venues. But at the same time, when you look regionally, we tend to look at the big players in the regions. Of course, when you look southern, we see South Africa, which is very well established in terms of having the capacity to host whatever number of association events that we want to look at or we want to host in Southern Africa. And we have major convention convention centers around in Southern Africa. In Kenya, yes, we have KICC, that's our premier convention center. We cannot say we do not have, because it has been there. In fact, KICC is much older than more modern convention centers. But as Waziri has said, it's time to relook at what KICC is able to deliver. We know it has always delivered with whatever constraints that it experiences. But again, as you said, we need to invest in a more modern convention center. You know, when you have a convention center and you have a convention bureau and you have strong associations, then I can assure you the meetings will continue flowing. As associations, one of the things that we look at before we even think about having meetings anywhere is, do they have a convention bureau? And truly speaking, sometimes I sit and I ask my friends, why do we have so few convention bureaus in Africa? When, if you go to the US, where convention bureaus are actually private businesses, you go to a state like New York, you'll be surprised that they have more than 200 convention bureaus. Almost every region has a city convention bureau, has a regional convention bureau, has more or less a county convention bureau, and those convention bureaus, they speak in one language. So the question is, if we have many convention bureaus in Africa, who can speak to each other? Because convention bureaus do not compete. Convention bureaus complement each other. They promote regions. The Kenya National Convention Bureau is not competing with the Rwanda Convention Bureau. When the Rwanda Convention Bureau is out there marketing for Rwanda, they're talking about the Eastern Africa region. They're not talking about Rwanda, because we know many people flying to Rwanda also fly via Nairobi. When you look down south, and I admire the leadership of the South Africa National Convention Bureau, they're so passionate about having many convention bureaus who can speak together and maybe potentially establish the Association for Convention Bureaus in Africa, so that we can actually vouch for the continent. And also, when we have strong associations, and I can tell you that every local association that we have has potential international link to a bigger association globally. For example, if you look at, let's say, the Kenya Professional Realtors Association, which we have locally, we do not know whether they have any linkage to bigger Realtors Association. And I'm talking about the American Realtors Association, which has 800,000 members in the US. If you have Kenya Professional Realtors Association creating that link with the American Realtors Association, and then they can start discussing, they'll be exposed, and the next time, most likely, you might see the American Realtors Association having interest to do events in Kenya, maybe in the East Africa region, or in Africa. So we need our strong associations to be linked up to international associations and also across Africa, and make sure that we are all speaking the same language to be able to grow our mice industry. That is really a sleeping giant. And the more we work towards collaboration and creating partnerships to make sure that we all speak together, especially post-COVID, then we might still be where we are, wondering where the rain beat us, but really the ideas, we have them. It's only those linkages that we need to open.
Right, wonderful. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Maybe, Tasneem, if you allow me, I can come in. Jeff, thank you very much. The only thing that we can do is reactivate the local associations. We have 40,000, as you mentioned. How do we activate them? How do we call them around? And I agree with you, Jaffers. We only are very narrow-minded about competition. We should be looking about complementarities. Yeah, and I like the idea that why don't we encourage every county? They have CECs of tourism. Why don't we encourage those counties to establish their own convention bureaus? And the Kenya National Convention Bureau gives the guidelines how a convention bureau is established, what is their role, how do they do the mapping and the inventory of their facilities, and support those small meetings that will take. And it doesn't have to be a meeting from Nairobi to Mombasa. It can be Mombasa to Mombasa. That is a meeting as well. We think that bringing WTO to Nairobi is a convention. No. I think the Law Society of Kenya, Mombasa branch, meeting at Pride Inn or at White Sands or at Voyager, those are the meetings we want them to continue, so it gives businesses to the facilities that are already established. So yes, thank you very much. I have learned two things, Tasneem and Zuhura, today, that we are sleeping on the potentials, and that's why the blessings of having the Convention Bureau is that this Convention Bureau that now is untapping the potential of the 200 big companies that are headquartered in Nairobi, the 40,000 companies that associations that are here in Kenya, and they are dormant, and probably we need those are the, and I want to make a commitment here. Maybe you, Zuhura, and Tasneem and Jacinta, you come and tell us, what do these associations need in terms of government incentives for them to be reactivated, so that they can be able to turn around and circulate money in the counties, so that people can get jobs and make these facilities work and be active as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Waziri. I just want to say something is that if we don't use this downtime, Waziri, to use it efficiently for our future, then we will have no one to blame. Jeffers has mentioned about collaborations. This is the time, because we need to synergize. We need to harness every energy that there is out there. So between your ministry, the Convention Bureau, between the Association of Business Events and MCA, I think we need to come together. It's no more, I don't believe we should be in an era of competition anymore. We have to look at how does each one bring in their strength and collaboratively win. Because if a SME stands on his own with 2 tents in his backyard, he can only do so much. But if those 2 tents become part of another 100 tents with somebody else, then there is room for business for everyone. So I think that's, this is a great start. Waziri Jeffers.
But Tasneem, I don't think, for me, I want the private sector to be more proactive. Yeah, okay, luckily we are accessible, we are working together as a team, but I want the thinking and the ideas and the proactiveness and the drive to come from the private sector. We will facilitate as government, but I want that drive from Zuhura. I want that drive from those small little SMEs which have the tents, and those hotels and lodges that have small rooms. Those are the proactiveness we want to hear. And I can tell you, we will support it. I am calling, and I've said this publicly, I'm calling for the unity of the private sector so that they can be more proactive. They should lead government rather than government leading the private sector. So I'm talking to Mohamed Hersi and Kenya Tourism Federation. How do we bring more life and support the associations and the private sector so that they are the ones to guide government and ask for the facilitation rather of government leading and then directing what to be facilitated? Thank you very much, Tasneem.
All right, thank you, Waziri. We're really very tight on time and we've got so many questions. I would like to bring this question in. For those of you who, I mean, most of you know who Zuhura is, but she's the chairperson of MCA. And there is a question on human resource, which is crucial. And I believe in this downtime, this is where we need to focus on, because event management, my sector, we kind of run it. I was there, I'm here by default. I can, do a decor or I can do something. But really, if we have to win international conferences, we need trained labor. So I want to throw this question to both Jacinta and Zuhura, because private sector will have to work with the Convention Bureau as well. Somebody asked, what course leads to being an event manager? i.e., do we have institutions, colleges in Nairobi that offer event management or event manager courses? And what will be the minimum qualification? And who is going to check if the meeting standards are met or not? So please take them as you see fit for your own. Zuhura, let's start with you as MCA.
Thank you so much, Tasneem. Yes, it's EMAC, that stands for the Event Managers Association of Kenya. the reason why we constituted this association was to bring professionalism in the industry. And really, as per our mission, is to promote advocacy, collaboration, fair play for the event practitioners in Kenya. And with that, of course, if you're promoting that, you're sure we're attracting more to the MICE industry because the experience will be good. We're standardizing operations and ensuring that each and every person delivers it at the global standards. And even our vision is how would we be able to see a transformed and professional events industry. Of course, the events industry has seen opportunities, even those that are downsized immediately come in and say, I do events. But we're trying to say events is not just for everyone. And there's order that can be done and we can deliver much more. So we have been able to bring this, and of course, riding heavy on our 5 pillars that are there on advocacy, collaboration, fair play. Again, how are we able to fair play while we are delivering the services? Sustainable membership, we have membership. We're encouraging other associations that are in the events portal to be able to collaborate. You see, it's the new word, it's the quick word. It's no longer about competition, but it's more like how would we do things that are governable, that are proper in place, that can be appreciated and that can market us further. And then the transformation aspect and also the professionalism. Just to let you know, yes, we are members of KEPSA and working heavy with the private sector. I know one of the things that we worked on, even on this COVID preparedness, was being able to write and work with the Ministry of Health on seeing how our members can be used to deliver the isolation centers, because we've got tents that are seated in stores and people are there and there's nothing that we're doing with them. We can be able to do, and we are heavy also on logistics. So we're not just about tents, but also we can be able to help government and even putting the protocol in place to be able to say, we can run the place. We are the ones who are in charge of filling the hotels that will be open. So professionalism is needed. And yes, we have the technical university, again, that we've been working with very keenly. They have the bachelor in event management. And we've been pushing a lot of people to, go for those courses. Even as EMAC, we are offering employment and internships from them. And now we are also working with other institutions and either other polytechnics to be able to be involved in the curriculum developments and be able to get the CEOs coming into the class and being able to teach much more than what you have there. So yes, we have TUK University that we've worked with very well, and every other time, all our members give internship to them. And also we encourage a lot of the people who haven't known much more about events to be able to go and have that course. So we're very excited. We are happy. We've rolled out across the country. We are seeing the other counties that are working with us. We are asking other associations that need to work together with us so that we can be able to promote Kenya and grow the MICE industry so that then we contribute heavily to the GDP of this country.
Thank you, Zuhura.
Thank you, Tasneem. Yeah, just to add something.
Go ahead.
Yes. Just to add on to what Zuhura had said about event management. Really, I just want to say that it's not just about organizing an event, but an event manager has the power to affect the formation of a destination's image. This is a strategic role that can help with promoting, positioning, branding the destination, and ensuring that you create a wholesome experience around events. Look at the platforms in Kenya, and we have a lot of creativity in the art and culture, in music, dances, customs, film, local cuisine. Somebody mentioned, visiting the farms. The ability for an event manager to consolidate all these experiences to enhance the customer's journey within the destination is key. So this is a very critical area, and we are going to be looking at this with EMAC and already in discussions with the education sector, because it has to be professionalized. There's a big gap, and Tasneem, you were there in the task force that this was identified. The other thing, of course, is to come up with the right regulations, right and fit for this sector. Having MICE infrastructure regulations, IT is going to be required more and more. How do we even come up with digital strategies to position ourselves as virtual destinations for virtual meetings, you know, things that are happening right now, so that we are able to get professionals in this area trained, and they could be able not to look at events as having a big meeting in a conference room, but have different types of events and be able even to have corporate meetings and be able to have incentive groups and travel within the destination. So the platform is really wide.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Yes, Rick.
Can I, just a quickie.
Yes.
A great question. Right now, there are free seminars. Certification is key to your point. I always believe that talent makes capital dance. The success of your bureau or your hotel is dependent on the talent. And certification, to your point, is critical. As we speak, and I put onto the bureau's desks, sites are giving free training, certified training away, as I think it's CVent, there are 2 or 3 free, fabulous, internationally recognized certificates on the market. So if anyone is particularly interested in that, they can reach out to, I guess, Jacinta or myself, and we'll share that detail with absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rick. I was a former chapter leader for SITE East Africa, so I'm quite aware of that. But we can share those links, not a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of passionate people here, and I tell you, we have a lot of passionate people in the audience. The questions are immense, but there is one question I must absolutely put out to both Rick and Jeffers, and please take less than a minute because I need our CS to wrap this up for us. This is a pertinent question coming up again and again. So how can we adopt the new virtual conference, segment and monetize it? I mean, are we prepared as Kenya to go into artificial intelligence also? Do you have any insights about that? Let me start off with Jeffers and then I come to you, Rick.
Thanks, Taz, again for that question. Let's be very honest that technology is now the driving force in every meeting that we're having. We're basically using technology. And if we don't invest in technology, then we might be left where we are, maybe wondering. Number one, the government need to come up with a development of virtual strategy, how the virtual events should actually be organized and what we need as players to make sure that we look at what's happening and make sure that the strategy is enforced. The other thing is we have used expert tool. There are numerous expert tools out there which can help us go to technology. The other thing is get industry advice on how to do these virtual events. There is too much information out there which we can always tap into and make sure it works. There's an interesting issue about monetizing the virtual events. Number one, depending on what industry you represent, you can charge registration fee to participate in a virtual event. And one thing is that virtual events are normally recorded, which means the content is always available. Like what we've discussed here, there are probably people who couldn't join us, but they can get this recording and be able to really understand what was discussed. That is, if somebody has to pay for that. The other thing is, it helps us as associations to actually generate more income through some of the events we undertake. We know that it's not very expensive to undertake a virtual event, but at the same time, if you have people register to participate in a virtual event, it's also another stream for revenue to associations. We need also to provide a space for delivering more content as we create it. I know that I've participated in a number of events where you don't pick maybe new or maybe a bullet about a destination. We prefer asking to be given a flash list, because you want to carry more content. when you are leaving that place. You come with one flash disk, which probably has tons and tons of content for that particular destination, if you are looking for a destination. So virtual events also gives you an opportunity to continue to deliver content as basically as you offer the education. So it's important for us to understand that we can monetize virtual content, but we also need to invest and do more research on how that can happen.
Thank you, Jeffers. Rick, do you have anything to say?
Just quickly, for me, monetization equals sponsorship, Tasmin, and it comes back to cost and value proposition. So, you know, as a potential sponsor of any virtual event, one has to clearly, I think, keep an eye on the ROI, the return on investment. And I think the cost only becomes a problem in the absence of value. So I think those kinds of little nuances are going to change absolutely as we go into the virtual world.
Thank you, Rick. Waziri, we're already past our time, but I do need to ask you to give us, in the briefest way possible, a roadmap for the MICE sector.
Thank you very much, Tasneem, and all the panelists. Thank you very much, and Jacinta, for organizing this. The roadmap for me, this is a learning lesson. And we have now engaged with Rick Taylor. He's on board to advise us. Jeffers, we will also find a way to engage with you and with ICA. How do we help us to get this thing done? It's very crucial. Today for me is a learning lesson, but also we know we have the potential that we have not exploited that potential. And probably it is during these difficult times when your mind goes overdrive and your determination on getting out of this problem. So yes, we have Tourism Regulatory Authority, who is the regulator, already developed some regulations for MICE, and definitely they will involve EMAC. Skills development as well for MICE as well. We need to work with the stakeholders to make sure that we have the right human capital. Again, we need the MICE sector to tell us what are the incentives for us to give as government to make this sector grow, and also to make it cost effective and competitive as well. Then definitely we need to do the listing and the reactivation of those 40,000 associations locally and the 200 plus associations that are headquarters into the country. How do we involve them? How do we bring them on board? And this during the quiet season now, this is the time we can activate such actions. And then yes, we need to invest. Yes, we can say about the Kigali, but Kigali invested into their convention bureau. Yeah, we can talk about Cape Town. Cape Town invested in the convention bureau. Marrakesh did the same thing. Sharm el-Sheikh did the same thing. But as Kenya, why are we not getting there? So these are the things that we are putting priority. The PPP project at Bomas, yeah, and the KICC project that we need to do it. And then there's an opportunity I've just learned from Jeffers is how do we create more convention bureaus to complement and be able to promote rather of having, and I like what Esmare did on the issues of how many conferences were held in Nairobi and how many were held in Mombasa. So we need these conferences to reach out in the rest of the country so people can feel they are part of this success story. But I agree with Jeffers that the virtual strategy, the digital strategy needs to be real and needs to be adopted, yeah, embraced properly so that we don't get it wrong, because otherwise we will not. For example, you build a beautiful conference center or conference facility, you still use this analog way of holding a mic, or yeah, while you don't have that simple thing that goes around you or a small little simple things. I mean, it's not just about putting a building, it's to make it work. If you go to a conference, for example, today, if my mic is not working or my camera is not working, it's an embarrassment, it's a waste of time. And those are the things we need to get it right. But yes, we need the Kenya National Convention Bureau, led by PS Safina as the board, but also by Jacinta. We need you to be proactive. This is the time I expect a lot of actions and then results. because it's not results in terms of meetings, but I know results of strategy, how to go forward. Because you are going to coordinate, the National Convention is going to coordinate the country's bidding for the country. And that is where you'll have to involve protocol, you have to go foreign affairs, you have to, all those other enablers in government. But yes, I can tell you that I think today is again a learning session. And I want to thank the participants, all the participants with all the questions. I've seen many questions. Some majority, 99% are very relevant to this. And I appreciate, and I want to thank also the panelists, Tasneem and Zuhura, thank you very much for doing this. But yes, I think this is the beginning. For us in the National Convention Bureau, we have just begun. Well, this is our first interaction with the stakeholders and with participants to give us ideas. And I think, Jacinta, don't stop here. This is the beginning. Thank you very much all. And I hope you have a good Eid tomorrow or on Monday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Waziri. Thank you, Esmare, Rick, Jacinta, Jeffers. Yes, you know, your passion has, and of course, you're friends of Kenya. That is the most important thing. My colleague Zuhura, it's been a fantastic session. It's the first, and there will be many more to come. Yeah. But more than virtual, we'd also like to now look at face-to-face eventually, where we can put together our energies. I want to leave everyone with one thought. For the last 2 months, or a little over 2 months, we have been focusing on the negative of Corona. Yeah. Do you know that the word Corona also is a ring around the sun? The very sun that gets us light every day. It's called the stellar corona. The crown of the sun is called the stellar corona. Can we focus on the sun, ladies and gentlemen? And can we look ahead and say, we are going to be shining through this one? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. Have a wonderful weekend. And daima mimi Mkenya, mwananchi mzalendo.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye.
Nice weekend. Bye.